John Yaglenski. I'm the Director of Communications for IEEE USA in Washington, D.C. IEEE is the world's largest technical professional society. If you are a technical professional, if you're in computing, if you're in engineering, consider joining. There you go. There's my plug, IEEE.org or IEEEUSA.org, either one. My background is pretty varied. I graduated with a BA in communications from the University of Dayton. I worked in radio for more than 10 years, broadcasting. I was on the air, town to town, up and down the dial. If you lived in Ohio, Maryland, West Virginia, DC, you might have heard me at some point during that period of time. Then I worked in real estate for a little bit as an operations manager, learned about computing, and then went on to work for one of the largest regional internet service providers in the country. They were called Errol's Internet. Errol's was fourth in the country behind AOL, Earthlink, and Mindspring. For those of you that are old enough to remember it, those were the big players that you would get internet from. Errol's was actually fourth behind them. So I worked there, and then we got bought out, and I came to work here for IEEE. But somewhere along there, when I was working in the internet industry, I also started a Walt Disney World travel vacation planning site called intercot.com. Been doing that for 25 years now. We're celebrating it literally this October. And so I'm involved in just about anything you can imagine, from broadcasting, podcasting, videography, making short films, conference producing, any sort of digital communications, social media. I'm a journeyman, I guess is what they call them, something like that. I'm not sure what the proper term these days is, but something along that lines. That's me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mara, Billy, I don't know, either one of you want to go first and talk about your inspiration, or if you want to tell everybody a little bit about you first, and then we'll go into the inspiration piece.
I think it might be handy if we actually just said a little bit about each other. So Mara, you go first, babe.
Sure things. Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Maxim, for giving us this opportunity to take time out. It's such a joy to actually remember that we are creatives in the land of what we do. So a little bit about me. I am a business strategist, as well as founder of Every Girl World, which we are launching in September 15th. Exciting times. So my background is really in strategic partnerships in the tech world. I also serve as an advisor at the Long Beach Tech Accelerator, and I have a long history in working in different verticals, from blockchain to smart devices. But my true passion as a creative, I'm an actress, I'm a producer. I'm producing an Oscar-nominated writer's script right now, as well as about 5 other films with a really lovely EP. And then building Every Girl, which we're launching a digital magazine and platform this year. So lovely, just lovely to be here and to be able to really take time out. All that gives me so much joy. But to remember my roots, I spoke earlier today as like an actress in laboratory theater, and my roots is like with my Taylor guitar and all of that stuff that really fuels all of that is such a joy. So I'm so happy to be here with everybody.
Thank you. Maxim, I'd like you to introduce me. You know me.
Well, I'm only passing through, so I won't be contributing much today, but
that's okay, but you can do my introduction. I can have some time off.
Your introduction. You want me to introduce you?
Yes.
Okay. So
no pressure.
Billy is a reality wrangler who has spent some considerable period of time exploring what it was that made Mavericks special, and how they have a positive impact, and how they can be enabled to have a positive impact, and developed a Maverick Wisdom Project in order to condense down this understanding and bring it to bear in the world. But has then moved on to a whole bunch of other projects, and is operating as a consultant, a keynote, and an author, and a thought leader in this space of, let's call it real thinking. And I think we originally met for a coffee that was supposed to be half an hour and was 4. And is an absolutely extraordinary mind. There you go. That's the best I've got.
Brilliant. It makes it so much better than me saying that to you.
You know what, Billy, next time I'm
I-
going to get Maxim to do that for me too. That was awesome.
Yeah. And the only thing I will change is I don't think I'm a thought leader. I'm a do leader, because sometimes I don't want to be somebody who just thinks about it. I want to make
But
sure
what
I'm
you do
doing it.
leads other people's thoughts.
Exactly.
So there you go. Right. On that happy
That's
note,
it.
I'm going to disappear and find out where our two missing panelists are. So
Thanks. Checks in the post.
See you.
Bye.
Sherm, you'll go.
Firm.
All right. Briefly, I'm a chef. I'm a private chef. That's why I'm where I am right now, which is a beautiful location in St. Barbara. But I'm also a startup founder. So I've founded a company called Candidate Collective. And the idea behind Candidate Collective is, instead of job boards or recruiters, in order to match people up, we're building a community. So people in my industry refer one another to employers, and they get paid to do so if it works out well. So that is the essence of Candidate Collective, and that sort of just popped into my mind in the sort of in the middle of the name of it popped into my mind in the middle of the night. But there's a fun origination story which I can tell you later on or some other time. But that's the essence of what I'm about at the moment. So I'm also just getting ready to launch a private chef subscription service called Pearls, and that's spelled PAERLS.com. We haven't quite launched that yet, but that is something that I think will do quite well as well, and be very helpful to private chefs and the folks that use them. And that is the word of the day is help, right? And so I'm always inspired to help in any way, shape, or form. I will bend over backwards for most anybody.
So Sherm, pretty much you have tons of free time, right? To do things.
Right.
No,
Right. Well, I'm in between lunch and dinner service at the moment. And,
Yeah.
Right.
we're fine.
Oh my goodness. How busy. That's amazing.
I'm happy to be-
Okay.
Yes.
So our task is to explore inspiration, what it means to us, where we get it, who hasn't got it, whatever comes into the equation. Sounds about right? Is that what we're doing?
I'll add, Billy, that to inspire others, I think that piece of the puzzle, what you just mentioned, I think that's a big piece of it. I think inspiring other
Yeah.
people, inspiring yourself, sure, but inspiring other people to do great things is something that I always try to remember, right? That it's about helping others and inspiring others to do what they want to do and what they want to aspire to. But yes, very well said.
Well, I think the funny thing is, I don't know how you all work, but I am constantly looking for inspiration. I mean, at the same time, you hope to be an inspiration, but I am always looking for somebody who's doing it better than I'm doing it, or who's doing it different than I'm doing it, in order to kind of redirect my thinking in another way, or come up with a more efficient way to do things, or even a more creative way to do things. I mean, where do you all find your inspiration?
Go ahead, Mara. I see you
I
smirking.
just started laughing because sometimes that's naps. So that's why I started laughing for a minute.
That's
'cause
okay.
I was
Yeah.
thinking about my morning where I was staying in bed 30 minutes later, and it was very inspiring. It's fascinating as a creative note, right? Because you have that little time in the morning when you're kind of awake, but you're not. I find that as like this grace time. I have this moment, right? It's that grace time where your brain is starting to tell you little things of like, oh, blah, blah, and I find that crafting out grace time is important to me, like kind of like grace notes, as if any musicians here for grace notes and having that space. So I think that it's interesting in finding it's more allowing space for it as of late. I find more is I can just open my eyeballs and get inspired, but it's actually having the time to be present to it. And that's what I find, with the beautiful thing of getting older, right? We do more stuff, which I tell my team often, because most of them are in their Gen Z to millennial, and I say, the best thing about getting older that nobody tells you about is you can do more stuff and it's really cool. But at the same time, you can do more stuff and it's really cool. But I think it's I'm not sure if finding it, though. I do appreciate totally what you just said, John, too, in the land of business, of that seeking. I get that too. I think more as a creative now, I'm realizing that I need space in order to slow down.
No, that's actually a fantastic point, and kind of what I was jokingly alluding to with Sherm, you're not busy at all then. No, like then finding that time. And a grace note, if I'm correct, is that's an implied note between a note? Is that how,
Yes,
right?
bass.
Okay, I was
Yeah.
trying to remember, because I did play bass guitar for a little bit too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's finding time to do that for me. And I'll give you an example of that, is like when I'm mowing the lawn, or when I'm going on a long car journey. Like occasionally I'll drive from Hilton Head Island, which is in South Carolina, to Orlando. It's a 5-hour drive. People are like, well, why do you want to do that? I mean, you fly, do something else. I'm like, I love my time in the car.
You know what I love about that, John, is I'm actually, in the summer, I spend time in Massachusetts in the Berkshires, which is about 3 hours by car. It's 3 hours from where I live in Manhattan. But I discovered that where I live in the city, 2 blocks from me is the Greyhound bus stop. Right. And I discovered that there's a Greyhound bus stop 30 minutes from where I live here. Now that day is like, nobody else would do it, but the day ends up being like 7-hour day, but you ride the bus for 2 hours, it stops,
Right.
you take a meeting, you get on, but I find it was so joyful that I don't drive back and forth anymore. I'm like, I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to take the bus, but let me tell you, it's relaxing. It is calm, and it allows my brain to process and think. Like the thinking time is like, it's luscious, but it's been silly because it's been the secret thing that I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm on the bus.
Oh, that is
Like, you
great.
can drive your car. I know I could drive my car. It's really stressful, but I could think and I could have my meetings and have a nice day. So I love that you said that about driving.
What is true?
Actually, it's actually making, just listening to you guys, I was like thinking, first of all, when you ask the question, it's that openness, right? I think to me, inspiration is about being open to whatever life's going to throw at you, whatever way it throws it at you, whatever you're seeing. Inspiration can come from any little place, as long as you're open to it. Yeah. And then the other thing is that thing what Mara was just saying about, like, so I've got this, I'm going to throw this $1 million question down on the table, okay, which all relates to what you just said. If most of the amazing things that came out, like apparently Gmail and all these things, came out from the downtime, the time where you're allowed to work on anything you want. So my $1 million question is, wouldn't the best way to run a company to inspire your workforce
Here it comes.
Hang on, you only have to do proper work for half a day a week, and the other 4.5 days, go and do your jam and see what comes out. I'd love to know if any company actually, I like to challenge the status quo, okay? I can't understand. I remember reading about this company, okay? They're a surf company. And one day the CEO just went, we're a fucking surf company. We ain't surfing. So he said, right, from now on, we're going to finish work at Friday lunchtime. We're all going to have lunch and we're all going to go and surf. And there was all these conversations going on, right? About, oh yeah, but how are we going to try and fit the work into 4.5 days? And do you know what happened? They were more productive than they were in 4.5 days than they were in 5 days. So one of the things is what you're saying, Maura, is like, we don't give, you're using the word grace, which is lovely. I've never heard it, but we don't give ourselves, well, not only do we not give ourselves grace, as in the other term way of using that word, we don't give ourselves the grace, the time. We don't give ourselves the inclination, right? Like, what's the first thing people say to you? Oh, how you doing? Oh, I'm so busy. Busy became a status symbol. I am not busy. I'm telling you right now, I'm not busy. If I didn't want to do anything for the next 3 weeks, I could wipe my diary, because I'm in charge of my life. This is how I would say, how do you inspire people? Yeah. I don't, if I constantly fill my day up like that, how am I going to allow for curveballs or things that the universe wants to send me that I would have missed completely? You know, as I often say to people, you know, life happens. It's the gaps between the raindrops. That's when it's happening. And we're so fixated on the fucking raindrop.
That's true.
That's my 50 cents
No,
on
that's
that.
true.
No, I mean, I wholeheartedly, I wholeheartedly agree that innovation isn't about like the to-do list. I've been really inspired by a book called The One Thing, and what I love about that is that he does talk about that, you know, is that the driver of business isn't the to-do list, you know, it is not the to-do, it's what's not on the to-do list. That's what I've mostly discovered as of the last, you know, so what's not on the to-do list is the driver of business. And even starting to learn how to lead my team that way to help them craft that space for themselves, you know, is really a fascinating, because I think also too, we get so many rewards in our world for the idea of being productive. I can't remember what book it is, but maybe John or Sherman, you would know this, but that productivity is antithetical to creativity. Like it is the nemesis, you know, productivity, nemesis to creativity. And that was something for me, you know, of knowing like, hey, like a Friday is like, shouldn't be packed, like, or I'm not going to write anything great on a Saturday. Like if I want to have great writing on a Saturday, like that's Friday's got to be nothing. There's no way that my creative brain will work on a Saturday, a Friday, if it's been 5 days of packed stuff. So, but I'd be curious about other people, because like I know Maximum, like he's a master of productivity and somehow he's so creative. I don't know how he handles that. But John or Sherman,
Pajama parties are the answer.
Yeah.
Sure.
I'm with you.
Sure. What say you on this?
Well, you mentioned pajama parties. I had to cook for the pajama party.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I'm the king of segues. Right
Too
there.
funny. But that was well done. That was well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you Mara mentioned something about, you know, you're too busy, right? If you're too busy to be able to have white space, and I think that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Got to be able to have white space. And I do find times when I'm not so busy in between things. There's times when I'm busy and I'm pushing like crazy on a lot of different levels, and there's times when I'm able to, like what Billy said, you know, I can imagine having 3 weeks and not doing, you know, not having to do anything necessarily. So I go back and forth. It's a roller coaster for me. Sometimes the next couple of weeks I'm here, I'm cooking, and I'm, you know, keeping an eye on my businesses and starting the other one. But you know, so it just comes in waves for me. I wish and I hope one day that I'll have no cell phone and no computer and just read books and be able to be inspired all the time. That's what I aspire to do.
But I think that's brilliant, because that is inspiration. So all you actually have to do to achieve that, right, is throw your iPhone and your computer away. It's a choice. You know, like we say, we accidentally lost our phone. The courage comes from actually saying, "Fuck you, I'm not doing that."
You're
like
right.
The other day, I went.
I will throw it into the ocean.
Yeah,
thanks.
I'm serious. I'm serious about it. Like, sometimes people turn around and say, you know, well, if I only didn't have a phone. I watched this movie once and somebody went, I wish that guy, they're sitting in the back of the car and they goes, you know, we're supposed to be on holiday. I wish that guy would get off his phone. I wish somebody would pick up his phone and throw it out the window. So his mate takes the phone, chucks it out the window. And I was like, oh, that's all.
I remember that movie. I'm trying to think what that was. Well, I literally 10 minutes.
Well, it's a Bollywood movie. It was a Bollywood movie.
Okay, well, it's been recreated in another movie too, as well. Then, but I will tell you, you know, like 10 minutes before I got on here, of course, I was on my phone scrolling through some TikTok or something like that. But I saw a picture of in a theme park where Goofy, the Disney character, goes and sits next to a guy on the bench. He is there 3 minutes before the guy realizes that Goofy is there. That I'm just sitting here. That is exactly what we're talking about here. You're so wrapped up in this or the screen here or the other stuff that you're really not living. And I think we've lost a little bit of that. And
John,
go ahead.
John,
Yeah, go
it's
ahead, Billy.
you know what's so scary, right? How many times in your life is Goofy gonna come and sit next to you? and
That's
you
what I
missed
mean.
it?
You just missed Goofy sitting next to you.
Oh
at
my
a theme
God.
park. And Goofy was like there, you know, like sitting there looking at him, like going, "Oh, what's going on?" And the guy's, you know, doing one of these things. So no, and that's just it. And how many things have you missed in your life and when you think back on it, because you've been so involved in that, instead of being inspired by your surroundings? I mean, I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. So, and I think about it, I'm like, and you talk about choice, I've got to choose to go to the beach a little bit more. That's just all there
Yes.
is to it, to watch more sunsets, to get up in the morning and to go see the sun rise and see just the majesty of all the colors and the gradients and everything blending together. You know, there's so much that you could be doing, and there's so many things you're wasting your time on too.
I think what I'd like to share with what you've just said, okay, then everybody chirp in what their 50 cents worth is on this. So my background, for you know, some of you know me, some of you don't. I used to be a children's nurse. On one episode of my life, I worked in palliative care for kids, okay. I learned an awful lot about what's really important in life, okay, and what isn't really important in life. And it's really
Uh-oh, we're sidelining.
interesting, because I often go through life going, well, you know, what people seem to be like, this is like, you know, I've got 60 gazillion likes on.
Oh no. Come back,
Billy.
Billy.
You might be having some technical difficulties. It seems like it might be a network thing. You're coming in like a robot.
Yeah, she's sidelining, as we call
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Instagram, like, really? Is that what's important? You
There
know,
we go.
it's about we've kind of been brainwashed, right? Since when did the
Billy, turn your camera.
Oh, and there she
There
goes.
you go. There you
There
go.
you go, okay.
Yeah.
did you all die? My screen just went.
Oh, there you are. Hello.
No, it was just you, Billy.
Okay.
I thought it was me.
No, nothing new. It's always just me, darling.
Yeah, Billy, we just yeah, you were in the middle of, I heard something about Instagram and it's not important, and the kind of the rest of it was like Cylon talk.
Yeah, there was a book written, okay, called, there was a nurse, I was telling you about working in palliative care.
Okay.
There was a nurse in Australia, and after all these people that she'd helped bury, you know, come to end of life, she gave this beautiful TED talk and wrote a book called The Five Regrets of Dying. After all the people she'd helped come to end of life, you know, nobody turned around and said, I wish I spent more time in the office. You know, it was always about, I wish I'd read, you know, I wish I'd stayed in touch with my friends. I wish I'd lived the life that I really wanted to live rather than the life other people. You know, it's worth watching the TED Talk. So it's just, sometimes it's just a case of, why would it have to take, yeah, one of us, I'm just pushing it out there. You want to be inspirational? Why would it have to take one of us getting a phone call to say, we got less than 3 months to live, to suddenly start living? The greatest sadness of human beings and the biggest gift we can give humanity is to inspire them. Most people, in my brain, people fall into two categories. There's those that live and those that exist. Decide which one you want to be and then go fucking do it. That's my inspiration. There you go.
My buddy Colin, who lives out here in Santa Barbara, he said that back when he moved from where he lived in Toronto, when he was 19, he went to Club Med, and at that point he decided that he will always live in a place he wants to live in and not live like in a suburb and you know, pine for that 1 week or 2 weeks where you go where you want to be. Instead, he just lives where he wants to live. So he used to live in St. Martin for many years, and now he lives in Santa Barbara. Smart man.
Sherm, 5 years ago, I made the decision along with my wife that we were going to move where we wanted to move, live where we wanted to live, and start, becoming the people we wanted to become as part of that, and not wait to the point where we retired in order to start living that life. And we set the vision. It came even probably a little bit longer than that, and executed on the vision, and things started falling into place. It didn't come overnight, but I think that's part of it. Is you think about something, you become inspired about something, you set the goal, and you work towards the goal. And the goal doesn't always happen in like 2 seconds or 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years. It might be 3 or 4 years till you get there, but you keep looking at that goal daily, and you keep targeting your life towards it, and eventually you'll get there. And that was the point. Just like your friend, I said, you know what? I want to live near water. I want to live on a beach. How can I get there? And then you put your plan into motion. So I'm 100% with your buddy, by the way.
I've always found this topic fascinating. The first summer of COVID, I found this little house because I was in Manhattan, in 3 hours north, like I said, in Massachusetts, in the Berkshires, which is mountains, and it's a house on 47 acres. Yeah, it's awesome. We have bears and like really fun stuff. It's horrible in the winter. I spent one winter here and I was like, that was a bad plan, but in the summer it's great. But what I found fascinating is that I'm originally from rural Iowa, like very rural, very similar to this, 30 acres, middle of nowhere, very rural. And what I found fascinating to me is that I was able to be a lot more productive than I am when, even though I love Manhattan and I have a lot of work in Los Angeles where I have to be in Los Angeles, like it's like not an option, right? To grow. Like there's some parts of business I feel is difficult where there's, you can, some people, friends of mine are super lucky they can hang out in Costa Rica and still build. And then there's others of us, there's times where you have to be in person, but what I found fascinating is that there is this part of me that even though there's, stuff that I would like to be, could be present to in New York, I'm not as productive as I am when I have access to instant nature and the fresh water and air. And I'm actually, 12 hours out here is not 12 hours in Manhattan.
No.
And it's a whole difference. But it's interesting to like honor that part of yourself, because you realize it's like, I missed that opening, I missed that, but I got all this other stuff done that I love, that I'm so happy about. But it is a difficult choice, I think, in our mobile society of like, oh, where am I hanging my hat?
It is. Hi, Nancy.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I had some kind of glitch. I was late to the party, but I love the energy in this group. I love the ideas I'm hearing. I think it's thank you for welcoming me, John.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, we've just been blabbing on, and I felt bad about that. But
no worries. But you know what? To Mara's point, I think that COVID's made a lot of people realize that we might like a busy place, like that, meeting people, collaborating, but it's nice to have some kind of alone time, nature time, to get out and reflect and kind of build up. Because to Billie's point, I think going through a pandemic makes people realize that, hey, things can happen that are unexpected and change our lives, and we have to kind of make the best of things.
Well, I think, to that point, what inspired me to do what we did was not only just wanting to be where we were, but I had thyroid cancer. So at that point, I'm like, all right, screw this. I'd like, life can be in an instant. And to the point, Billie, I mean, you're not going to come at the end of your life going, I wish I spent another hour in the office. You're going to be wishing you spent some more time with your parents, your kids, your neighbors, whatever, people in your community, folks like you online where you can draw great inspiration from. I mean, that's the stuff that's really important. And the funny thing is, when you feed that side of you, you end up being more productive in everything else you do, and you end up being a better person for it. So,
and also, I think you end up being. So the other day, I live in Sausalito, and I was getting the ferry across to. I was getting the ferry back from San Francisco out, I started talking to this girl who was standing next to me outside of the ferry, and within 5 seconds, she turned around and went, "Are you an inspirational speaker? Are you a motivational speaker?" I went, sometimes, because I don't like a job title. I do whatever I feel like doing. So it's really interesting because sometimes, I know when we said at the beginning, we don't want to talk about, oh, look, I'm inspired by this, but sometimes the things that inspire us, it's like it has a knock-on effect. We're just dominoes, yeah. I think a lot of the things, people who inspire me are usually people who are brave enough to go and live. The thing that I admire more than anything else on this world is people who are really true to themselves, who are really, the talk I'm giving tomorrow that Maxim asked me to do is called Do You Be You. And it's the power of just being who you uniquely are, okay? And it's kind of like, I'm inspired by people who are, because what they do is those people wear their vulnerabilities on their sleeves, okay? They know they're not perfect. They know they're not the cookie cutter. They're not being in the box. But at the same time, they give everybody else the courage to go and be themselves, yeah? And I think the people that inspire me are people like that. And if along the way you accidentally inspire other people, then so be it, whoopee-doo, you know, but it's all about choice. It comes down to choice.
What I find fascinating too, Billy, what you just said. I remember when I first came out here, and it's like what, it was June of COVID, and it was, everything was crazy. New York was crazy. But it was interesting when I came out here, and I hadn't lived in the country since being a child, I've lived a lot of places, mostly Manhattan, but in the country as being a child. And, I had this 2-bedroom house, and it's 47 acres. I'm like, wow. And what I realized, I had a friend ask me, she's like, what's going on, and I said, yeah. And I had this feeling, I said, this is one of the more dangerous things I've ever done creatively. And it felt, and I wasn't afraid of bears, and I wasn't afraid of being alone. That wasn't it, it was not that, but creatively. And it was a very interesting time for me creatively, because it felt very dangerous after having so many, and been in Manhattan like 15 years straight, or something like that, but it's interesting, those choices, of just like, where is that danger, and I think inspiration too is about, what is that, that danger moment, but
yeah. What about you, Shaw?
I would like to take the time, we have about 10 minutes left of this session, to open it up for some audience questions, Q&A, if you have any. If you do have a question, use the little raise your hand icon, or send me a chat if you'd like to. If you don't have one right now, if you have one within the next 10, just shoot me a chat, and I'll interrupt these guys and get that answered. So just wanted to put that out there. You guys can continue. We'll wait till we get a raised hand.
No, it's fine. I was going to just say real quick is that when I started thinking about what I was going to talk about for the conference last year, and, I started with thought I was going to do a 60-minute session. It ended up being 30-minute session. I actually was going to talk about me and try and be inspiring. And what I ended up doing instead was gathering together what my friends' words of wisdoms were, rather than mine. Because my wife told me nobody would want to listen to my inspirational stuff, which is funny. My wife's always harsh on me like that. But yeah, so this year, actually, it'll be a follow through on that, to the things I didn't get to in the what was supposed to be a 60-minute talk. But what I found in that process was that as a creative, I've surrounded myself with people that are inspiring. So I think it's a matter of, you build your network, your tribe, whatever the term you want to call it. There's a lot of them out there for it. But I think over the years, the older you get, you start surrounding yourself with people that can drive you and drive, you to be better, a better version of yourself.
I love
And
that. We have a chat going on. I just wanted to get your guys'
yeah. I really liked what Talia said.
Yes. I'll go ahead. I'll read
it out, Claire.
Yeah. Creativity is a lot more looking at lots of input and finding ways to connect the dots in new and interesting ways, rather than being struck by lightning. Creativity needs inspiration and input at least some of the time. Love that.
Yeah. And I think sometimes what I was going to say to Talia's comment was sometimes you could, you know, like, you ever had those games where you're like, oh, so you're going to design a new type of phone, but what the phone has to do is it has to help see better, right? They link, you connect things that are unconnected to make something better. And one of the ways I find, Talia, I don't know if this helps you, but I like finding those, I like creating those moments. So one of the things I love is I love looking for things that have been repurposed. I was talking, I mean, Sherm, you were there, and you, Mara, when we were talking at Mike Pell in the creativity conference, and I've been working with Mike on some work he's doing with his sister's art, and his sister's art is all drawn on old yellow pages. She didn't write or draw on a canvas. She draws on yellow pages. And she draws on a newspaper, and it was like it's inspiration that comes from even using something that isn't normal. And I remember talking, I think I was, when you guys heard me, I was saying, one of the things that fascinated me is when you walk through New York, I saw these billboards where they had American Express had got credit cards, and you could choose if you want a credit card with random art on it, or if you wanted the one with flowers. Before I realized it was that, I thought it was just that somebody had decided to start doing their art on a credit card. Yeah. Thank you. That's exactly what I needed somebody to put up. I was blown away. I was like, wow.
Isn't that cool?
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
for me, sometimes the inspiration comes from where somebody's taken something and used it. Like, I love that stuff where they make houses out of pallets. You know, they use the most obtuse thing to produce something else.
Yeah, the shipping containers.
Rocks my
exactly.
world. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
That is amazing.
So Talia, the collection comes from the repurposing for me. Where does it come for you? You can put it in the chat if you want.
I definitely love the repurposing of things. I think that's a lot of fun. There's a deck of cards that I found in a creativity museum once. I think it's called Disruptus, that does the same thing that you were talking about here, you draw two cards and now make something that incorporates something from both of them, or draw one card and find a new way of doing the thing that this represents, or use, you just drew a high-heeled shoe. What else can you do with it? Oh, maybe it's a hammer. That kind of thing. It's one of the games. I run a creativity club on Thursday afternoons, and that's the kind of games that we play there is how do you pull things together like that.
Tanya, is that why they started asking people that, but wasn't it a job interview? How many things can you make with a paperclip or something?
It's possible.
That's what
It's also a lot of job interviews say things like, are you comfortable with ambiguity? And I'm like, how do you become more comfortable with ambiguity? And my answer is creativity.
Yeah,
true.
That's actually really fascinating. Like, are you comfortable with ambiguity? I find that's an interesting thing to ask in an interview. That's like fascinating.
Well, I think that's one of the things that you're taught in art school is to embrace ambiguity. There's no right answer. You have to think outside the box, and there's no wrong answer. It's if there's 15 people, there should be 15 different solutions compared to let's say you're working with a team of engineers who are working inside the box, who are very creative but more in a puzzle solving type of way. So there's different aspects of creativity, but I love the ambiguity. It's really creative personalities, artistic personalities can embrace that, I think, more easily. But those games sound like a way to help many people be more creative. It's fantastic. I'd love to have the link for your club. Is it online?
Yeah.
Would you mind sharing it with us, Talia?
If it's all right, if you send me your email, I'll send you the link for it. And you can let me know if you want to be on my mailing list or you just want the link once.
Okay.
If you're on my mailing list, I'll send you the link every week, so you don't have to go looking for it.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
Will do. I'm going to jump off. I've got to talk myself in a few minutes. And I just need to gather my thoughts. So thank you
All
all
good.
very much. Yes, I've got to get inspired. So I'm going to go
Great
do
meeting you,
that,
Sherm.
and I will see you all in a few.
Sounds good.
Thank
Nice
you.
to see you.
Nice to meet you, Sherman.
Thank
Bye now.
you.
Nice to meet you all.
See you.
Sure.
I have a question for Billie. How do you find that you can actually funnel your inspiration? Because I know, like, kind of as a super creatives, which I know everybody here is a super creative, that, you know, you can get, I even feel it out here in this little wonderland I live in. It's like almost like it's like creative overload, you know, because it's like super. How do you make that determination between inspiration and then fueling that, rather than just being like a human sponge and then not accomplishing? Yeah, how do you find that line, and how do you adjust to that?
That's a really good question. So first of all, I love the fact that you use the human sponge analogy. So that's the bit that's the wonder, like, awe, and the rules don't apply, and all that, all the things that we I was talking about the paperclip thing. Yeah, I remember going somewhere, me and this kid, we were at this party and we played the paperclip game for hours, and people were just like, what? So it's so first of all, it's being respecting the fact that you're like a sponge, right? But then I make it really easy for myself. I have loads of games and strategies in place to overcome my own limitations, right? So one of the ways I do, every time I have something, I think, oh, I'm not very good at that. Okay, how can I make this into a game? Everything I do is a game. So one of the things I do is, and at the same time, I used to teach leadership and management. So I'm like, okay, so I know that, you know, people leave if they're working, for example. I don't work for a living, I play for a living. And what I do is I only set myself a couple of things to do every day, you know, but I do them really well. And then I feel like if I only give myself 3 things to do, yeah, then do those things really well.
Mm-hmm.
That's it, rather than, you know, I don't want to do anything badly, right?
Yeah.
And I'm an artist. I'm not meaning like I believe in perfection or anything, but I think where I remember reading when I was teaching leadership in a university, they were saying, you know, like the reason people leave the office every day and feel like, oh, they failed or they didn't achieve much, is because they made a list that was actually unachievable in the 7 hours.
100%. Yep.
I think the other thing that's happened, and I really, really like your question, is that when COVID happened, like I said to you before, I used to work in palliative care. You know, my phone rings a lot where somebody's in trouble and they'll ring me, you know, or if they're feeling, the amount of times I've had somebody said, okay, just split up with my girlfriend, I'm depressed, I'm getting in the car, I need to come and hang at your house for a few days. Fine. Yeah. Now, the thing is, what I learned after COVID was, there's a lot of people who want that, and I'm happy to give that to a certain degree, okay? Because obviously otherwise I'd be drowning.
Yeah.
But it's the ability to be, I said to my partner the other day, I said, I don't want a life where I get on really well with my in-laws, okay? Like I love them to bits. I don't want a life where my mother-in-law wants to go, well, Dee or Ian want to talk to me and I ain't got time for them. I don't want that life, because I see that life as not having quality. Yeah, I don't want a life where a friend of mine rings me and I have to say, let me check in my diary, I'll get back to you in 3 weeks. That isn't the life I want. So I think a lot of the stuff I'm talking about is very much tied into what you were saying, Mara. It was what Sherman was saying. It was what you were saying, John, you know, and you, Nancy. It's everything you're saying is about, you know, we have to make choices about the kind of life we want to live. And when you start asking those questions, you have to get deeper to that. Like, John, you then turned around and said, oh, you know, this happened. So I'll be honest with you, I'm the oldest of 6 kids, right? I grew up in a house where everything was dictated for me. What I wore, what I ate, but I rebelled big time. And I think all human beings have a word that defines them. Anybody who knows me knows my word's freedom. So my phone does it. Somebody said to me the other day, oh, you know, my son said, oh, you know, talking to you, trying to get a hold of you on your phone, you know, sometimes you can't get hold of you. I went, yeah. I went, my phone, I dictate my life. My phone doesn't dictate me. And I think it's just that choice. I think it's all about being inspired And living inspiring lives comes down to the choice. And we all have, it's like I said to Sherman, I wasn't being funny. He was saying, you know, one day I won't have a phone. Pick it up, throw it away. There you go. You haven't got a phone.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's almost, it takes so much more discernment, I think, in our world now.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
a higher level of discernment, you know, so it's not like you don't just show up to work and think you're going to know, you know, top priority to do necessarily. It's a discernment for our own sanity purposes.
Yes.
But I do find it fascinating, just, you know, and that's what's also, I think, fun about creativity conferences being around like other super creatives, you know, because I think we have to make so many more choices because of that discernment, you know, because you know that it's like, well, of course you can tackle anything or everything, you know, I mean, that isn't the thing, you know, it's like, it's not like, can I do it? It's like, well, of course I can, you know, whatever that is, but it's like making that discernment. So I know, John, you probably have a lot of thoughts around that too.
No, I mean, just the reality is, I mean, the way I try and operate most of the time is I don't say yes to things that I can't follow through on.
That's
And so,
beautiful.
and that's, Billy, I think you made that point. You know, if you commit to something, commit to do it and commit to do it well. But sometimes I have to say no because of that. You have to turn away work. You have to turn away opportunity just because it doesn't fit into something that you'll either be able to get done or you'll be able to do well, or is worth spending your time on, which is a whole other thing. So.